Chapter 11. Therefore you shall love the Lord your God, and keep his charge, and his statutes, and his ordinances, and his commandments always. Know you this day, for I don't speak with your children who have not known, and who have not seen the chastisement of the Lord your God, his greatness, his mighty hand, and his outstretched arm, and his signs, and his works, which he did in the midst of Egypt to Pharaoh the king of Egypt, and to all his land, and what he did to the army of Egypt, to their horses and to their chariots, how he made the water of the Red Sea to overflow them as they pursued after you, and how the Lord has destroyed them to this day, and what he did to you in the wilderness until you came to this place, and what he did to Dathan and Abiram, the sons of Eliab, the son of Reuben, how the earth opened its mouth and swallowed them up, and their households and their tents, and every living thing that followed them, in the midst of all Israel. But your eyes have seen all the great work of the Lord which he did. Therefore shall you keep all the commandment which I command you this day, that you may be strong, and go in and possess the land where you go over to possess it, and that you may prolong your days in the land which the Lord swore to your fathers to give to them and to their seed, a land flowing with milk and honey. For the land where you go in to possess it isn't as the land of Egypt from whence you came out, where you sowed your seed and watered it with your foot, as a garden of herbs. But the land where you go over to possess it is a land of hills and valleys, and drinks water of the rain of the sky, a land which the Lord your God cares for. The eyes of the Lord your God are always on it, from the beginning of the year even to the end of the year. It shall happen, if you shall listen diligently to my commandments which I command you this day, to love the Lord your God, and to serve him with all your heart and with all your soul, that I will give the rain of your land in its season, the former rain and the latter rain, that you may gather in your grain, and your new wine, and your oil. I will give grass in your fields for your cattle, and you shall eat and be full. Take heed to yourselves, lest your heart be deceived, and you turn aside and serve other gods and worship them, and the anger of the Lord be kindled against you, and he shut up the sky, so that there shall be no rain, and the land shall not yield its fruit, and you perish quickly from off the good land which the Lord gives you. Therefore shall you lay up these my words in your heart and in your soul, and you shall bind them for a sign on your hand, and they shall be for symbols between your eyes. You shall teach them to your children, talking of them when you sit in your house, and when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise up. You shall write them on the doorpost of your house and on your gates, that your days may be multiplied, and the days of your children, in the land which the Lord swore to your fathers to give them, as the days of heavens above the earth. For if you shall diligently keep all this commandment which I command you, to do it, to love the Lord your God, to walk in all his ways, and to cleave to him, then will the Lord drive out all these nations from before you, and you shall dispossess nations greater and mightier than yourselves. Every place whereon the sole of your foot shall tread shall be yours, from the wilderness and Lebanon, from the river Euphrates, even to the hinder sea shall be your border. There shall no man be able to stand before you. The Lord your God shall lay the fear of you and the dread of you on all the land that you shall tread on, as he has spoken to you. Behold, I set before you this day a blessing and a curse. The blessing, if you shall listen to the commandments of the Lord your God, which I command you this day, and the curse, if you shall not listen to the commandments of the Lord your God, but turn aside out of the way which I command you this day, to go after other gods, which you have not known. It shall happen, when the Lord your God shall bring you into the land where you go to possess it, that you shall set the blessing on Mount Gerizim, and the curse on Mount Ebal. Aren't they beyond the Jordan, behind the way of the going down of the sun, in the land of the Canaanites who dwell in the Arabah, over against Gilgal, besides the oaks of Moreh? For you are to pass over the Jordan to go in to possess the land which the Lord your God gives you, and you shall possess it and dwell therein. You shall observe to do all the statutes and the ordinances which I set before you this day. Chapter 12. These are the statutes and the ordinances which you shall observe to do in the land which the Lord, the God of your fathers, has given you to possess, all the days that you live on the earth. You shall surely destroy all the places in which the nations that you shall dispossess serve their gods, on the high mountains, and on the hills, and under every green tree. And you shall break down their altars, and dash in pieces their pillars, and burn their Asherim with fire. And you shall cut down the engraved images of their gods, and you shall destroy their name out of that place. You shall not do so to the Lord your God, but to the place which the Lord your God shall choose out of all your tribes, to put his name there, even to his habitation shall you seek, and there you shall come, and there you shall bring your burnt offerings, and your sacrifices, and your tithes, and the heave offering of your hand, and your vows, and your freewill offerings, and the firstborn of your herd and of your flock. And there you shall eat before the Lord your God, and you shall rejoice in all that you put your hand to, you and your households, in which the Lord your God has blessed you. You shall not do after the things that we do here this day, every man whatever is right in his own eyes, for you haven't yet come to the rest and to the inheritance which the Lord your God gives you. But when you go over the Jordan, and dwell in the land which the Lord your God causes you to inherit, and he gives you rest from all your enemies round about, so that you dwell in safety, then it shall happen that to the place which the Lord your God shall choose, to cause his name to dwell there, there shall you bring all that I command you, your burnt offerings and your sacrifices, your tithes and the heave offerings of your hand, and all your choice vows which you vow to the Lord. You shall rejoice before the Lord your God, you and your sons and your daughters, and your men servants and your maid servants, and the Levite who is within your gates, because he has no portion nor inheritance with you. Take heed to yourself that you don't offer your burnt offerings in every place that you see, but in the place which the Lord shall choose in one of your tribes, there you shall offer your burnt offerings, and there you shall do all that I command you. Notwithstanding, you may kill and eat flesh within all your gates, after all the desire of your soul, according to the blessing of the Lord your God, which he has given you. The unclean and the clean may eat of it, as of the gazelle, and as of the hart. Only you shall not eat the blood, you shall pour it out on the earth as water. You may not eat within your gates the tithe of your grain, or of your new wine, or of your oil, or the firstborn of your herd or of your flock, nor any of your vows which you vow, nor your freewill offerings, nor the heave offering of your hand, but you shall eat them before the Lord your God, in the place which the Lord your God shall choose, you, and your son and your daughter, and your manservant and your maidservant, and the Levite who is within your gates, and you shall rejoice before the Lord your God in all that you put your hand to. Take heed to yourself that you don't forsake the Levite as long as you live in your land. When the Lord your God shall enlarge your border, as he has promised you, and you shall say, I will eat flesh, because your soul desires to eat flesh, you may eat flesh after all the desire of your soul. If the place which the Lord your God shall choose to put his name there be too far from you, then you shall kill of your herd and of your flock, which the Lord has given you, as I have commanded you, and you may eat within your gates, after all the desire of your soul. Even as the gazelle and as the hart is eaten, so shall you eat it. The clean and the unclean may eat of it alike. Only be sure that you don't eat the blood, for the blood is the life, and you shall not eat the life with the flesh. You shall not eat it, you shall pour it out on the earth as water. You shall not eat it, that it may go well with you, and with your children after you, when you shall do that which is right in the eyes of the Lord. Only your holy things which you have, and your vows you shall take, and go to the place which the Lord shall choose. And you shall offer your burnt offerings, the flesh and the blood, on the altar of the Lord your God. And the blood of your sacrifices shall be poured out on the altar of the Lord your God, and you shall eat the flesh. Observe and hear all these words which I command you, that it may go well with you, and with your children after you forever. when you do that which is good and right in the eyes of the Lord your God. When the Lord your God shall cut off the nations from before you, where you go in to dispossess them, and you dispossess them and dwell in their land, take heed to yourself that you not be ensnared to follow them, after that they are destroyed from before you, and that you not inquire after their gods, saying, How do these nations serve their gods? Even so will I do likewise. You shall not do so to the Lord your God, for every abomination to the Lord which he hates have they done to their gods. For even their sons and their daughters do they burn in the fire to their gods. Whatever thing I command you, that shall you observe to do. You shall not add thereto, nor diminish from it. Chapter 13. If there arise in the midst of you a prophet, or a dreamer of dreams, and he give you a sign or a wonder, and the sign or the wonder comes to pass, of which he spoke to you, saying, Let us go after other gods which you have not known, and let us serve them. You shall not listen to the words of that prophet, or to that dreamer of dreams, for the Lord your God proves you, to know whether you love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul. You shall walk after the Lord your God, and fear him, and keep his commandments, and obey his voice, and you shall serve him and cleave to him. That prophet or that dreamer of dreams shall be put to death, because he has spoken rebellion against the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, and redeemed you out of the house of bondage, to draw you aside out of the way which the Lord your God commanded you to walk in. So shall you put away the evil from the midst of you. If your brother, the son of your mother, or your son or your daughter, or the wife of your bosom, or your friend who is as your own soul, entices you secretly, saying, Let us go and serve other gods, which you have not known, you nor your fathers, of the gods of the peoples who are round about you, near to you, or far off from you, from the one end of the earth even to the other end of the earth, you shall not consent to him, nor listen to him. Neither shall your eye pity him, neither shall you spare, neither shall you conceal him, but you shall surely kill him. Your hand shall be first on him to put him to death, and afterwards the hand of all the people. You shall stone him to death with stones, because he has sought to draw you away from the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. All Israel shall hear and fear, and shall not do any more such wickedness as this in the midst of you. If you shall hear tell concerning one of your cities, which the Lord your God gives you to dwell there, saying, Certain base fellows are gone out from the midst of you, and have drawn away the inhabitants of their city, saying, Let us go and serve other gods which you have not known. Then shall you inquire, and make search, and ask diligently. And behold, if it be true, and the thing certain, that such an abomination is done in the midst of you, you shall surely strike the inhabitants of that city with the edge of the sword, destroying it utterly, and all that is therein, and the cattle of it with the edge of the sword. You shall gather all the spoil of it into the midst of the street, and burn it with fire in the city, and all the spoil, everything, to the Lord your God, and it shall be a heap forever, it shall not be built again. There shall cleave nothing of the devoted thing to your hand, that the Lord may turn from the fierceness of his anger, and show you mercy, and have compassion on you, and multiply you as he has sworn to your fathers, when you shall listen to the voice of the Lord your God, to keep all his commandments, which I command you this day, to do that which is right in the eyes of the Lord your God. Chapter 14. You are the children of the Lord your God. You shall not cut yourselves, nor make any boldness between your eyes for the dead. For you are a holy people to the Lord your God, and the Lord has chosen you to be a people for his own possession, above all peoples who are on the face of the earth. You shall not eat any abominable thing. These are the animals which you may eat: the ox, the sheep, and the goat, the hart, and the gazelle, and the roebuck, and the wild goat, and the ibex, and the antelope, and the chamois. Every animal that parts the hoof, and has the hoof cloven in two, and choose the cud among the animals, that you may eat. Nevertheless these you shall not eat of them that chew the cud, or of those that have the hoof cloven, the camel and the hare and the rabbit, because they chew the cud, but don't part the hoof, they are unclean to you. The pig, because it has a split hoof, but doesn't chew the cud, is unclean to you. Of their flesh you shall not eat, and their carcasses you shall not touch. These you may eat of all that are in the waters. Whatever has fins and scales you may eat, and whatever doesn't have fins and scales you shall not eat, it is unclean to you. Of all clean birds you may eat, but these are they of which you shall not eat: the eagle, and the gyre eagle, and the osprey, and the red kite, and the falcon, and the kite after its kind, and every raven after its kind, and the ostrich, and the nighthawk, and the sea-mew, and the hawk after its kind, the little owl, and the great owl, and the horned owl, and the pelican, and the vulture, and the cormorant, and the stork, and the heron after its kind, and the hoopoe, and the bat. All winged creeping things are unclean to you, they shall not be eaten. Of all clean birds you may eat. You shall not eat of anything that dies of itself. You may give it to the foreigner living among you who is within your gates, that he may eat it, or you may sell it to a foreigner. For you are a holy people to the Lord your God. You shall not boil a kid in its mother's milk. You shall surely tithe all the increase of your seed, that which comes forth from the field year by year. You shall eat before the Lord your God, in the place which he shall choose to cause his name to dwell there, the tithe of your grain, of your new wine, and of your oil, and the firstborn of your herd and of your flock, that you may learn to fear the Lord your God always. If the way be too long for you, so that you are not able to carry it, because the place is too far from you, which the Lord your God shall choose to set his name there, when the Lord your God shall bless you, then shall you turn it into money, and bind up the money in your hand, and shall go to the place which the Lord your God shall choose. And you shall bestow the money for whatever your soul desires, for oxen, or for sheep, or for wine, or for strong drink, or for whatever your soul asks of you. And you shall eat there before the Lord your God, and you shall rejoice, you and your household. The Levite who is within your gates, you shall not forsake him, for he has no portion nor inheritance with you. At the end of every 3 years you shall bring forth all the tithe of your increase in the same year, and shall lay it up within your gates. And the Levite, because he has no portion nor inheritance with you, and the foreigner living among you, and the fatherless, and the widow who are within your gates, shall come and eat and be satisfied, that the Lord your God may bless you in all the work of your hand which you do. Chapter 15. At the end of every 7 years you shall make a release. This is the manner of the release. Every creditor shall release that which he has lent to his neighbor. He shall not exact it of his neighbor and his brother, because the Lord's release has been proclaimed. Of a foreigner you may exact it, but whatever of yours is with your brother your hand shall release. However, there shall be no poor with you, for the Lord will surely bless you in the land which the Lord your God gives you for an inheritance to possess it, if only you diligently listen to the voice of the Lord your God, to observe to do all this commandment which I command you this day. For the Lord your God will bless you, as he has promised you, and you shall lend to many nations, but you shall not borrow, and you shall rule over many nations, but they shall not rule over you. If there be with you a poor man, one of your brothers, within any of your gates in your land which the Lord your God gives you, you shall not harden your heart, nor shut your hand from your poor brother, but you shall surely open your hand to him, and shall surely lend him sufficient for his need in that which he wants. Beware that there not be a base thought in your heart, saying, the 7th year, the year of release, is at hand, and your eye be evil against your poor brother, and you give him nothing, and he cry to the Lord against you, and it be sin to you. You shall surely give to him, and your heart shall not be grieved when you give to him, because that for this thing the Lord your God will bless you in all your work, and in all that you put your hand to. For the poor will never cease out of the land. Therefore I command you, saying, You shall surely open your hand to your brother, to your needy, and to your poor in your land. If your brother, a Hebrew man or a Hebrew woman, be sold to you, and serve you 6 years, then in the 7th year you shall let him go free from you. When you let him go free from you, you shall not let him go empty. You shall furnish him liberally out of your flock, and out of your threshing floor, and out of your winepress. As the Lord your God has blessed you, you shall give to him. You shall remember that you were a bondservant in the land of Egypt, and the Lord your God redeemed you. Therefore I command you this thing today. It shall be, if he tell you, I will not go out from you, because he loves you and your house, because he is well with you, then you shall take an awl, and thrust it through his ear to the door, and he shall be your servant forever. Also to your maidservant you shall do likewise. It shall not seem hard to you, when you let him go free from you, for to the double of the hire of a hireling has he served you 6 years, and the Lord your God will bless you in all that you do. All the firstborn males that are born of your herd and of your flock you shall sanctify to the Lord your God. You shall do no work with the firstborn of your herd, nor shear the firstborn of your flock. You shall eat it before the Lord your God year by year, in the place which the Lord shall choose, you and your household. If it have any blemish, as if it be lame or blind, any ill blemish whatever, you shall not sacrifice it to the Lord your God. You shall eat it within your gates. The clean and the unclean alike shall eat it, as the gazelle and as the hart. Only you shall not eat its blood. You shall pour it out on the ground as water. Chapter 16. Observe the month of Abib, and keep the Passover to the Lord your God. For in the month of Abib the Lord your God brought you forth out of Egypt by night. You shall sacrifice the Passover to the Lord your God, of the flock and the herd, in the place which the Lord shall choose, to cause his name to dwell there. You shall eat no leavened bread with it. 7 days shall you eat unleavened bread therewith, even the bread of affliction. For you came forth out of the land of Egypt in haste, that you may remember the day when you came forth out of the land of Egypt all the days of your life. There shall be no yeast seen with you in all your borders 7 days. Neither shall any of the flesh, which you sacrificed the first day at evening, remain all night until the morning. You may not sacrifice the Passover within any of your gates, which the Lord your God gives you, but at the place which the Lord your God shall choose, to cause his name to dwell in, there you shall sacrifice the Passover at evening, at the going down of the sun, at the season that you came forth out of Egypt. You shall roast and eat it in the place which the Lord your God shall choose, and you shall turn in the morning, and go to your tents. 6 days shall you eat unleavened bread, and on the 7th day shall be a solemn assembly to the Lord your God. You shall do no work therein. 7 weeks shall you number to you, from the time you begin to put the sickle, to the standing grain shall you begin to number 7 weeks. You shall keep the feast of weeks to the Lord your God, with a tribute of a freewill offering of your hand, which you shall give, according as the Lord your God blesses you. And you shall rejoice before the Lord your God, you, and your son and your daughter, and your manservant and your maidservant, and the Levite who is within your gates, and the foreigner, and the fatherless, and the widow who are in the midst of you, in the place which the Lord your God shall choose, to cause his name to dwell there. You shall remember that you were a bondservant in Egypt, and you shall observe and do these statutes. You shall keep the Feast of Tents 7 days. After that you have gathered in from your threshing floor and from your winepress. And you shall rejoice in your feast, you and your son and your daughter, and your manservant and your maidservant, and the Levite, and the foreigner, and the fatherless, and the widow who are within your gates. 7 days shall you keep a feast to the Lord your God, in the place which the Lord shall choose, because the Lord your God will bless you in all your increase, and in all the work of your hands, and you shall be altogether joyful. 3 times in the year shall your males appear before the Lord your God in the place which he shall choose, in the feast of unleavened bread, and in the feast of weeks, and in the feast of tents, and they shall not appear before the Lord empty. Every man shall give as he is able, according to the blessing of the Lord your God which he has given you. Judges and officers shall you make in all your gates, which the Lord your God gives you, according to your tribes, and they shall judge the people with righteous judgment. You shall not wrest justice, you shall not respect persons, neither shall you take a bribe, for a bribe does blind the eyes of the wise, and pervert the words of the righteous. That which is altogether just shall you follow, that you may live, and inherit the land which the Lord your God gives you. You shall not plant an Asherah of any kind of tree beside the altar of the Lord your God, which you shall make. Neither shall you set yourself up a pillar, which the Lord your God hates. Chapter 17. You shall not sacrifice to the Lord your God an ox, or a sheep, in which is a blemish, or anything evil, for that is an abomination to the Lord your God. If there be found in the midst of you, within any of your gates which the Lord your God gives you, man or woman, who does that which is evil in the sight of the Lord your God, in transgressing his covenant, and has gone and served other gods, and worshipped them, or the sun, or the moon, or any of the hosts of the sky which I have not commanded, and it be told you, and you have heard of it, then you shall inquire diligently, and behold, if it be true, and the thing certain, that such abomination is done in Israel, then shall you bring forth that man or that woman who has done this evil thing to your gates, even the man or the woman, and you shall stone them to death with stones. At the mouth of 2 witnesses, or 3 witnesses, shall he who is to die be put to death. At the mouth of 1 witness he shall not be put to death. The hand of the witness shall be first on him to put him to death, and afterward the hand of all the people. So you shall put away the evil from the midst of you. If there arise a matter too hard for you in judgment, between blood and blood, between plea and plea, and between stroke and stroke, being matters of controversy within your gates, then shall you arise, and go up to the place which the Lord your God shall choose, and you shall come to the priest of the Levites, and to the judge who shall be in those days, and you shall inquire, and they shall show you the sentence of judgment. You shall do according to the tenor of the sentence, which they shall show you from the place which the Lord shall choose. And you shall observe to do all that they shall teach you. According to the tenor of the law which they shall teach you, and according to the judgment which they shall tell you, you shall do. You shall not turn aside from the sentence which they shall show you, to the right hand nor to the left. The man who does presumptuously, and not listening to the priest who stands to minister there before the Lord your God, or to the judge, even that man shall die, and you shall put away evil from Israel. All the people shall hear and fear, and do no more presumptuously. When you are come to the land which the Lord your God gives you, and shall possess it, and shall dwell therein, and shall say, I will set a king over me, like all the nations that are round about me. You shall surely set him king over you, whom the Lord your God shall choose. One from among your brothers shall you set king over you. You may not put a foreigner over you, who is not your brother. Only he shall not multiply horses to himself, nor cause the people to return to Egypt, to the end that he may multiply horses. Because the Lord has said to you, you shall henceforth return no more that way. Neither shall he multiply wives to himself, that his heart not turn away. Neither shall he greatly multiply to himself silver and gold. It shall be, when he sits on the throne of his kingdom, that he shall write him a copy of this law in a book, out of that which is before the priests, the Levites. And it shall be with him, and he shall read therein all the days of his life, that he may learn to fear the Lord his God, to keep all the words of this law, and these statutes to do them, that his heart not be lifted up above his brothers, and that he not turn aside from the commandment, to the right hand or to the left, to the end that he may prolong the days of his kingdom, he and his children, in the midst of Israel. Chapter 18. The priests, the Levites, even all the tribe of Levi, shall have no portion nor inheritance with Israel. They shall eat the offerings of the Lord made by fire, and his inheritance. They shall have no inheritance among their brothers. The Lord is their inheritance, as he has spoken to them. This shall be the priest's due from the people, from those who offer a sacrifice, whether it be ox or sheep, that they shall give to the priest the shoulder, and the 2 cheeks, and the maw. The firstfruits of your grain, of your new wine, and of your oil, and the first of the fleece of your sheep shall you give him. For the Lord your God has chosen them out of all your tribes, to stand to minister in the name of the Lord, him and his sons forever. If a Levite comes from any of your gates out of all Israel, where he lives as a foreigner, and comes with all the desire of his soul to the place which the Lord shall choose, then he shall minister in the name of the Lord his God, as all his brothers the Levites do, who stand there before the Lord. They shall have like portions to eat, besides that which comes of the sale of his patrimony. When you are come into the land which the Lord your God gives you, you shall not learn to do after the abominations of those nations. There shall not be found with you anyone who makes his son or his daughter to pass through the fire, one who uses divination, one who practices sorcery, or an enchanter, or a sorcerer, or a charmer, or a consulter with a familiar spirit, or a wizard, or a necromancer. For whoever does these things is an abomination to the Lord, and because of these abominations, the Lord your God does drive them out from before you. You shall be perfect with the Lord your God. For these nations that you shall dispossess, listen to those who practice sorcery, and to diviners. But as for you, the Lord your God has not allowed you to do so. The Lord your God will raise up to you a prophet from the midst of you, of your brothers like me. To him you shall listen, according to all that you desired of the Lord your God in Horeb, in the day of the assembly, saying, Let me not hear again the voice of the Lord my God, neither let me see this great fire any more, that I not die. The Lord said to me, They have said well that which they have spoken. I will raise them up a prophet from among their brothers like you, and I will put my words in his mouth, and he shall speak to them all that I shall command him. It shall happen, that whoever will not listen to my words which he shall speak in my name, I will require it of him. But the prophet, who shall speak a word presumptuously in my name, which I have not commanded him to speak, or who shall speak in the name of other gods, that same prophet shall die. If you say in your heart, How shall we know the word which the Lord has not spoken? When a prophet speaks in the name of the Lord, if the thing doesn't follow nor happen, that is the thing which the Lord has not spoken. The prophet has spoken it presumptuously. You shall not be afraid of him. Chapter 19. When the Lord your God shall cut off the nations, whose land the Lord your God gives you, and you succeed them, and dwell in their cities and in their houses, you shall set apart 3 cities for you in the midst of your land, which the Lord your God gives you to possess it. You shall prepare you the way, and divide the borders of your land which the Lord your God causes you to inherit into 3 parts, that every manslayer may flee there. This is the case of the manslayer that shall flee there and live. Whoever kills his neighbor unawares, and didn't hate him in time past, as when a man goes into the forest with his neighbor to cut wood, and his hand fetches a stroke with the axe to cut down the tree, and the head slips from the handle, and lights on his neighbor so that he dies, he shall flee to one of these cities and live, lest the avenger of blood pursue the manslayer while his heart is hot, and overtake him, because the way is long, and strike him mortally, whereas he was not worthy of death, inasmuch as he didn't hate him in time past. Therefore I command you, saying, you shall set apart 3 cities for you. If the Lord your God enlarges your border, as he has sworn to your fathers, and gives you all the land which he promised to give to your fathers, if you shall keep all this commandment to do it which I command you this day, to love the Lord your God, and to walk ever in his ways, then shall you add 3 cities more for you besides these 3, that innocent blood not be shed in the midst of your land, which the Lord your God gives you for an inheritance, and so blood be on you. But if any man hates his neighbor, and lies in wait for him, and rises up against him, and strikes him mortally so that he dies, and he flees into one of these cities, then the elders of his city shall send and bring him there, and deliver him into the hand of the avenger of blood, that he may die. Your eyes shall not pity him, but you shall put away the innocent blood from Israel, that it may go well with you. You shall not remove your neighbor's landmark, which they of old time have set, in your inheritance which you shall inherit, in the land that the Lord your God gives you to possess it. One witness shall not rise up against a man for any iniquity, or for any sin, and any sin that he sins. At the mouth of 2 witnesses, or at the mouth of 3 witnesses shall a matter be established. If an unrighteous witness rises up against any man to testify against him of wrongdoing, then both the men, between whom the controversy is, shall stand before the Lord, before the priest and the judges who shall be in those days. And the judges shall make diligent inquisition. And behold, if the witness is a false witness, and he has testified falsely against his brother, then you shall do to him as he had thought to do to his brother. So shall you put away the evil from the midst of you. Those who remain shall hear and fear, and shall henceforth commit no more any such evil in the midst of you. Your eyes shall not pity. Life shall go for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot. Chapter 20. When you go forth to battle against your enemies, and see horses and chariots, and a people more than you, you shall not be afraid of them, for the Lord your God is with you, who brought you up out of the land of Egypt. It shall be, when you draw near to the battle, that the priest shall approach and speak to the people, and shall tell them, Hear, Israel, you draw near this day to battle against your enemies. Don't let your heart faint. Don't be afraid nor tremble, neither be scared of them. For the Lord your God is he who goes with you, to fight for you against your enemies, to save you. The officers shall speak to the people, saying, What man is there who has built a new house and has not dedicated it? Let him go and return to his house, lest he die in the battle, and another man dedicate it. What man is there who has planted a vineyard, and has not used the fruit of it? Let him go and return to his house, lest he die in the battle, and another man use the fruit of it. What man is there who has pledged to be married to a wife, and has not taken her? Let him go and return to his house, lest he die in the battle, and another man take her. The officers shall speak further to the people, and they shall say, What man is there who is fearful and faint-hearted? Let him go and return to his house, lest his brother's heart melt as his heart. It shall be, when the officers have made an end of speaking to the people, that they shall appoint captains of a host as the head of the people. When you draw near to a city to fight against it, then proclaim peace to it. It shall be, if it make peace with you, and open to you, then it shall be that all the people who are found therein shall become tributary to you, and shall serve you. If it will make no peace with you, but will make war against you, then you shall besiege it. And when the Lord your God delivers it into your hand, you shall strike every male of it with the edge of the sword. But the women and the little ones, and the cattle, and all that is in the city, even all the spoil of it, shall you take for a prey to yourself, and you shall eat the spoil of your enemies which the Lord your God has given you. Thus shall you do to all the cities which are very far off from you, which are not of the cities of these nations, but of the cities of these peoples, that the Lord your God gives you for an inheritance. You shall save alive nothing that breathes, but you shall utterly destroy them. the Hittite and the Amorite, the Canaanite and the Perizzite, the Hivite and the Jebusite, as the Lord your God has commanded you, that they not teach you to do after all their abominations, which they have done to their gods. So would you sin against the Lord your God. When you shall besiege a city a long time, in making war against it to take it, you shall not destroy the trees of it by wielding an axe against them, for you may eat of them, and you shall not cut them down. For is the tree of the field man, that it should be besieged of you? Only the trees of which you know that they are not trees for food, you shall destroy and cut them down, and you shall build bulwarks against the city that makes war with you, until it falls.